Hello, whisperers. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy tonight's tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps more than you know. Now, dim the lights, and let's begin tonight's story. We dropped into the Darién Gap just after sunrise, and even from the helicopter you could tell the jungle didn't want us there. It looked endless, just a boiling green ocean with no wind, no break, no roads. Mercer said jungles breathe different than forests. Down here, everything grows over everything else. And the only reason you see daylight is because the plants haven't agreed on who owns it yet. The heat slapped us the moment our boots hit the ground. Thick, wet, sour, like stepping inside someone else's lungs. Bugs buzzed around my ears before I could adjust my vest. The humidity soaked my shirt in minutes. The air tasted alive. I kept catching myself checking the tree line for movement, even when I knew damn well everything was moving. Dalton swatted the side of his neck for maybe the 10th time. Why couldn't the government lose a recon team in, Colorado, Idaho, somewhere with air? Mercer didn't smile. He didn't even look at him. He was staring into the canopy like he was waiting for it to blink. They didn't lose a team, he said. Something took them. That's what we're here for. Dalton muttered something about transfer papers and went back to swatting bugs. We followed a narrow animal path, mud sucking at our boots, roots grabbing our ankles. Vines hung low like booby traps someone forgot to mark. I kept my rifle at a low ready, muzzle pointed where the undergrowth looked darkest. Every sound felt closer than it should have been. Birds screamed overhead, but the noise didn't echo. It just stopped at tree bark and died. Half a mile in, Mercer froze. He crouched by a trunk, running a finger over 3 deep gouges carved straight into the wood. Each cut was long, curved inward, spaced like fingers. Except they weren't vertical. They arced downward, like something had hung upside down and dragged its claws while sliding midair. Dalton leaned in. Jesus, that a jaguar? Mercer shook his head. Jaguars don't hang from branches like bats. He pointed up. The branch overhead was thick enough to hold a grown man. Something bigger, probably. And they don't cut this deep, he added quietly. I didn't know jaguars well, but I knew Mercer. If he said a normal animal didn't do it, then something damn sure didn't. We kept moving. The jungle got heavier the deeper we went, darker too. The light had to fight through 3 layers of canopy, and even then it only hit the ground in thin, broken stripes. The mud turned reddish in spots, smelling like rust and rot. Mercer sniffed the air once, the way he does when he catches the hint of a threat. We found the boar 20 minutes later, or what was left of it. It hung 20 feet up in a crotch of branches, like someone had thrown it into the tree with enough force to wedge the torso between limbs. The stomach was torn open, ribs cracked clean apart from the inside out. Flies swarmed it in a vibrating cloud. Dalton gagged into his sleeve. Whatever killed it carried it up there. No, Mercer said, tilting his head, brow tightening. It jumped up. I blinked. With the boar? Yes, with the boar, he confirmed. I looked up, following his line of sight. The branch was thicker than my thigh. Even if the creature had claws, and at this point that was a given, that was a hell of a climb while holding 200 pounds of dead weight. Dalton wiped sweat off his forehead. We sure we're still hunting an animal? We haven't even seen evidence of an animal, Mercer said softly. This feels deliberate. That didn't make me feel better. The recon team's last campsite was a clearing where the trees leaned away from the center, like they'd been bent. Gear was scattered everywhere. Canteens, torn packs, shredded ponchos. There was a radio half buried in mud, its antenna snapped clean, and blood. A lot of blood. Not smeared, sprayed. Upward, onto leaves 5 or 6 feet high. Dalton whispered, "What the hell happened here?" Mercer crouched, tracing a splash pattern in the dirt with a gloved finger. Attack came from above. I felt the back of my neck itch. One of the sleeping cots was still intact, but the fabric sagged weird. I nudged it aside with my boot. A rib cage stared back at me. Human, stripped down to bone from the sternum to the hips. The ribs bent outward like something had forced them apart. The spine was still attached, no arms, no legs, no head. Dalton stumbled backward, breathing fast. Nope, nope. Mercer didn't move. His voice dropped lower. "Luke, look up." I did. There was a man wedged between 2 trees overhead. What was left of him, anyway. His gear was still strapped on, radio pressed against his hip. His torso was gutted and hollow, and one of his boots dangled from a branch by the laces. Something had dragged him up there, torn him open, and fed on him like fruit. "Why leave him there?" Dalton whispered. "To watch," Mercer said. "This is a territory mark." The jungle went quiet then. Not slowly, abrupt, like someone clicked a switch and cut the sound out of the world. No birds, no buzzing, no nothing. The silence pressed against my ears until I realized it wasn't silence. It was listening. Something shifted overhead, not loud, just a soft weight, moving between leaves. I lifted my rifle, but the branches above us were too dense. You can't shoot what you can't see. Dalton breathed. "Luke." Mercer moved closer to us, scanning upward. His face was tight, focused, not scared, just calculating. "It's been shadowing us," he murmured. "Since the boar, maybe earlier." A slow growl rolled through the canopy, low, vibrating, not quite feline, not quite human either. Something in the tone felt annoyed, like it didn't appreciate us stepping deeper into its home. Sweat ran down my spine. Dalton's hands trembled on his rifle. "Is it close?" Mercer didn't take his eyes off the treetops. "It's above us right now." I scanned through the branches, heartbeat thudding in my ears, and then I saw them. 2 golden orbs, not glowing, reflecting, following every movement we made. Another growl rippled the air. Mercer whispered, "Luke, on my count, move back toward the thicker cover. Dalton, left. Don't turn your back to." The branches exploded above us. Something massive leapt sideways, rustling the canopy so violently leaves rained down like a storm. We never saw its full shape, just speed, raw speed, and weight shifting through branches thicker than my arm. The golden eyes vanished, then reappeared farther left. Tracking, testing. Dalton whispered something I couldn't hear. My chest tightened. My grip on the rifle felt too small, too human. It shifted again. Closer this time. Mercer whispered, barely audible. Don't run. That's what it wants. And the jungle held its breath, waiting for the next move. The jungle didn't ease up after the first encounter. If anything, it pushed in closer. Every direction looked the same. Green walls, black shadows, vines thick enough to trip a truck. The canopy blotted out most of the sky, and the air felt hotter with every step, like whatever lived up there was breathing down on us. Mercer moved slower now. Not because he was scared. Mercer didn't do fear the way normal people did, but because he was tracking, studying patterns, feeling the jungle in a way I couldn't. Dalton stuck closer to him than usual. I could hear his breathing through the throat mic, the slight hitch every few seconds. It wasn't panic, yet just the kind of forced calm people use when they know they're being watched. Luke, Mercer murmured, raising a hand. His eyes traced claw marks across a branch overhead. Deep, fresh, the edges were still wet. It's circling. Dalton swallowed. Why? Why not just hit us like it did the recon team? Because it doesn't know us yet, Mercer said. It's observing. I'd rather it observe from anywhere else, Dalton muttered. We moved under a natural arch of woven branches. Leaves brushed our shoulders. Something dropped from above, just a clump of moss, but Dalton flinched hard enough to rattle gear. Mercer stopped again, crouching to examine tracks in the mud. They weren't paw prints. They were too wide, too deep, heel and ball both visible, almost human, but spaced like something heavier than a man. Much heavier. I scanned the overhead branches. How much bigger than a real jaguar you think this thing is? Mercer answered without looking up. Big enough that if it drops on you, you won't feel anything after the first second. Dalton let out a breath. Awesome, great. I love this job. We kept moving. The jungle thinned slightly ahead, enough to let a slice of light cut through. Mercer started toward it, and that's when the branches above shifted a ripple, a shadow, the kind of movement that doesn't belong to wind. I opened my mouth to warn him. Too late. The canopy exploded downward, a blur of rosette-patterned skin, muscle, and claws dropped like a living boulder straight onto Mercer. The impact shook the ground. Mercer went down hard, a strangled sound leaving his throat as claws tore straight across his back, shredding his vest like paper. The creature didn't stop. It bit him, jaw locking onto Mercer's shoulder with a deep guttural crunch. The sound was wrong, too heavy, too final. Mercer cried out through clenched teeth, trying to twist away, but the thing dragged him. Fast, toward the trees, claws tearing furrows into the dirt as it pulled him upward with sickening strength. I emptied half a mag into its flank. The creature snarled, a low, rattling growl, and released him only long enough to leap sideways into the branches. Mercer fell from almost 15 feet up, hitting every vine and limb on the way down before slamming into the ground hard enough to knock the air out of him. Dalton rushed him first, hands shaking but moving with instinct. "Mercer, look at me, look at me. Stay with me, okay?" Mercer rolled onto his back, blood soaking through his shirt, breath sharp and wet. His shoulder looked wrong, like something had crushed it inward. The bite was deep, too deep. I knelt beside him, tearing a pack of combat gauze open. "Hold him steady." Dalton braced him. Mercer hissed through clenched teeth as I packed the wound. "Ribs feel cracked," Mercer rasped. "Maybe 2, maybe 3. "You're alive," I said. "That's the only part that matters." Dalton looked up at the canopy, eyes wide. "It was... Luke, that thing was huge. Like it wasn't even trying to hide its weight." "It's learning," Mercer wheezed. "Testing our response time." His voice was thin. That scared me more than anything else. I finished packing the wound and strapped a pressure bandage around his shoulder. Dalton helped haul him upright. Mercer tried to stand, but his legs buckled. "I got him," Dalton said quickly, slipping under Mercer's good arm. We moved, fast. We didn't run, but it felt like we were holding back a sprint the whole time. The canopy above creaked with movement. The creature paced us, matching our speed without ever showing its face. A branch snapped behind us. Something heavy shifted overhead, tracking our route with sickening patience. "This isn't random hunting," Mercer said quietly, breathing hard. "It's territorial. It wants us out or dead." Dalton grimaced. "Great, fantastic. I love knowing it's organized enough to have opinions." We pushed through another wall of vines, and the jungle opened into a clearing swallowed by roots and stone. The ruins of some ancient structure twisted out of the ground, covered in moss and half-eaten by time. "This works," I said. "We can control angles here." Dalton eased Mercer down against a rooted slab of rock. "You good? Talk to me." Mercer nodded once, jaw tight. "Hurts, but manageable." I scanned the canopy. The shadows moved again. Too fluid. Too quiet. A hunter waiting for dark. Dalton set perimeter traps with trembling hands. Tripwires, flares, anything to buy us a warning. Sweat dripped off his chin as he worked. The air felt heavier than before, like the jungle was pushing inward. Night crept fast. Birds went silent. The trees stopped rustling. And then, softly, something landed in the brush behind us. We spun. It wasn't the creature. It was a radio, the same model the recon team carried, bent, crushed, thrown like trash. Dalton whispered, "It's toying with us." Mercer's voice was barely audible. "No, it's warning us." A low roar rolled through the canopy. Jaguar, but not jaguar. Something deeper, almost human. I raised my rifle. "Tomorrow," Mercer whispered, "we end it." I didn't say anything. I was too busy staring into the dark, where the golden eyes blinked once, and then vanished. Mercer barely slept. He drifted in and out, breathing shallow through pain, muttering things he never muttered. Little status checks, still alive, still aware, still fighting. Every few minutes, his hand twitched toward his weapon, even though he couldn't lift it. Dalton and I took turns keeping watch, but the jungle didn't move. The creature didn't attack. It stayed out there in the dark where we couldn't see it, pacing, thinking. Not human thinking, predator thinking. I could feel it. Around dawn, the light came in dull and gray, thin shafts slipping through the canopy like the jungle didn't want to grant us a morning. Dalton checked Mercer's shoulder. He didn't say it, but we both knew the swelling was bad. Infection already threatened. We didn't have time. Mercer looked at me. His voice was soft, strained. You two have to finish it. It won't stop now. It marked you. Dalton swallowed hard. It marked us? Like dinner? Mercer shook his head slightly. No, like a rival. Great. Just what I needed. Some supernatural jaguar thing having beef with me personally. We made a plan. It wasn't complicated because complicated doesn't work when something hangs in trees like gravity is a rumor. I'd draw it out. Dalton would circle behind. Mercer would stay hidden and pray we didn't die. By mid-morning, the jungle was heavy with silence again. I stepped into the clearing first, rifle raised. Dalton flanked right, moving slow, checking branches like the creature might materialize out of air. It almost did. A low chuff sounded above us. A warning. I swung upward, catching a blur leaping branch to branch. Muscle, rosette fur, a human-like arm ending in curved claws. It was watching me. Only me. Dalton whispered, "It's fixated, Luke. Use it." Yeah, lucky me. I took 2 steps left, deliberately exposing myself between 2 trees. A stupid move, unless you wanted to get something's attention. The canopy cracked. It dropped. Not like an animal, like an avalanche. I dove sideways as it smashed into the ground where I'd been standing. Dirt erupted in a blast. Its claws skidded across stone with a metallic scrape. It was bigger than I'd seen before, maybe because now it wasn't hiding. 7 feet tall on its hind legs, chest thick as a bear, face half jaguar, half something else, snout shorter, eyes too forward-facing, jaw jagged and wrong, like it had grown teeth faster than bone. It roared. Dalton opened fire from the flank, stitching rounds across its shoulder. The creature shrieked, a high, ear-splitting sound that rattled birds from the canopy. It didn't retreat. It charged Dalton. Dalton, move. He dove behind a root system as the creature leapt where he had been, jaws snapping shut with a noise like breaking wood. It spun fast, way too fast, and swiped. Dalton barely threw himself back, but one claw caught his vest, ripping it off like tearing paper. I fired a burst into its thigh. The creature snarled and pivoted toward me, bleeding thick and dark. Good. Come on, I muttered. Come on, you bastard. It lunged at me. I didn't run. I didn't freeze either. I stepped into it. My boot slammed into a root. I used it like a pivot, sliding left while raking a mag point blank across its ribs. Blood splattered my arms. The thing shrieked in fury, swiping where my head used to be. It rounded on me again, hunched, breathing in ragged shudders. Something about the wounds. They weren't clotting. It was hurting, actually hurting. Dalton crawled out from behind a fallen tree, shakily reloading. "Luke, keep it on you. I've got a shot." The creature shifted toward him. "Oh, no, you don't, you fucker," I growled. I caught a vine, yanked it down, and snapped it upward like a whip, smacking the creature across the muzzle. It didn't do damage, but it pissed it off. It slammed into me. The world flipped. My back hit the dirt so hard stars burst in my vision. The creature pinned me down with one arm, claws digging into my chest rig. Its breath was hot and rancid, smelling like copper and rot. Drool dripped onto my cheek. It opened its jaws. A single gunshot cracked. The creature jerked, Dalton's bullet hitting behind its ear. It wasn't a kill shot, but it stunned the thing long enough for me to roll away. It whipped around toward Dalton with a hateful guttural screech. "Luke, finish it," Dalton yelled. I grabbed my last mag, slammed it in, and sprinted toward the creature. It swatted at me, claws slicing through the air. One caught my forearm, burning pain ripping through muscle. Didn't matter. I drove forward, shoved the muzzle under its jaw, and emptied the mag straight through the skull. The creature's body convulsed once, twice, then it collapsed onto the jungle floor, shaking the ground. The roar it released as it died wasn't an animal sound. It wasn't human either. It was something older and furious. Silence swallowed the clearing. Dalton limped toward me, sweat-soaked, shaking with adrenaline. Holy hell. That was too close, I said. We both turned toward the ruins. Mercer, pale, sweating, barely upright, was leaning against the stone, rifle in his good hand. He exhaled shakily. "Good work," he rasped. "Now get over here, before I pass out." We braced his arms over our shoulders and carried him out of the clearing. As we walked, the jungle slowly let sound creep back in. Birds chirping, branches rustling, like whatever had held its breath was finally letting go. Hours later, we reached the extraction point. By the time the helicopter touched down, Mercer was half conscious, and Dalton was telling the pilot things that definitely weren't true about how calm and tactical we'd been. I sat back against a crate, breathing the first clean air I'd tasted all day. Dalton nudged me. "Hey, Luke, you realize we just took down the apex predator of apex predators?" "Barely," I said. He grinned. "But we did." Mercer stirred, opening one eye. "Don't get cocky. The year's just beginning." His eyelids fluttered. "HQ wants us back fast." Another anomaly popped up. He paused, breathing slow. "Something in Nevada." Dalton groaned. "Desert again? At least give us a break from heat." Mercer shook his head, eyes closing again. "No, not heat. Underground." I swallowed. Great. Whatever waited for us next. It was waiting in the dark.